Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to do some basic edits in Photoshop. These are the things that I usually start with when I have raw images to work with. And as you can see down here, I'm using my software that came with my Canon camera, and I'm just using this to view my pictures. So these are some pictures that I took a long time ago of my cousin and his fiance, and this was for an engagement picture. That they were going to use to put on like a save the date for their wedding. So right here you can see here's my library, and I picked this one to edit today, and you can see the exposure settings right here. I have my aperture at 5.6, shutter speed 1/1000th of a second, and then my ISO is at 800. So right here I'm ready to go. So I click on this, and then I'm going to hit save. I'm going to put it on my desktop just for now. It's going to save at 350 dpi, and then it's going to pop up. So then right click, open with Photoshop, and there we go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my levels and curves. Just get my darks dark and my whites white. Just a little tiny bit. And you can see like the range in the histogram is pretty good. It's a little on the dark side. Okay. And now for my curve layer, I'm going to do the same thing, only different, because I'm deciding that the only thing I want to really brighten is them. So I'm going to have click on my curve adjustment layer, and then I'm going to bring up my curves all the way in the middle, and the only thing I'm looking at right now is actually their faces. I'm going to continue to bring this up until I think their faces are bright enough. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Command I, which is inverse. And then I've basically made my layer mask black, covering up all of the curve edits that I just did. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit B, or you can just go into your paintbrush and click on that. And make sure that this has white on the top. And then I'm going to just brush back in my edits right on their faces. And you can see that it is brightening them up really nicely. Now you also notice that my opacity is at 25%, my flow is at 33%. Oh, and I'm going to turn this to normal. And I do that because I like to see a gradual and slow change. I don't like to see too much of a change right away. And I don't know if you noticed, but the resolution on this photo is not as good as usual, because I was using my old Canon T5. And it doesn't have as many megapixels. So, but still a good picture. You know, this picture is great because the composition of the space is really nice. You have the figures kind of sitting on the more off to the side of the photo. They have great smiles. They look genuinely happy. It's not overly posed. They look relaxed. And they're in a beautiful natural environment. So those are some things that the photo has going for it. So even if you don't have the best camera available to you, you can still take a great picture. Anyway, so you can see now that brightness is coming back, but just to their faces. I'm going to turn it up, my opacity all the way up, and just go over their faces a little tiny bit more. just kick up that brightness. Just make sure that you are staying on the inside of their faces, because if you brush around the outside of their faces, you're going to get like a halo effect, and it's not going to look good. Okay, so there's before and after. And now you can see it's a little extreme, so I'm going to double click on my layer, and then I'm going to press my Option key down and drag this output slider. Hold on, let me show you their face. There we go. And you can see, look at the shadows there. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that in a little tiny bit. So it's like you still have the brightness, but the brightness is not affecting the shadows as much. So I like it right about there. I'm just going to say OK, so you can see before and after, but it's a little more natural. Now I noticed that the back, no, I guess not. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a high pass filter on just their faces here. So I'm going to hit Command E and Command E again, and that just merges my edits down. Then I'm going to hit Command J and make another layer here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go Convert to Smart Object. So what that does is it makes your filter able to have a mask put on it, plain and simple. So after this is a smart object, I'm going to go Filter, Other, High Pass. And you're going to see the photo comes out a little funky. I'm going to bring it down to like, I don't know, maybe there. I'm not going to use it everywhere in the picture. I know it looks funny, but all you have to do is go to Overlay, and now it looks normal, and you can see before, after. See how crisp it is? Yeah, so this is really just a sharpening tool. The thing is I'm going to put a mask on here. So click on your mask down there, and then again, Command I, and now I'm just going to go back into the faces, and I'm just going to sharpen the faces. That's it. See that? And you know what? High pass filter is really good for eyes and hair, and not as good for skin. Because with skin, you kind of want the skin to look a little softer. Because, not to make it fake looking, but just because skin is usually soft, and you want to be true to the texture of skin in a photo, and you can do that by keeping it soft. So I would take the high pass filter off of your skin and just keep it right on the hair, the eyes, the mouth, and then down here I'm going to do it also on his shoes and anything else that has like a really interesting texture to it, because the high pass filter is like the equivalent of the clarity tool, only you can brush it on, which is what I like about it. So anyway, let's look at the before, high pass, after high pass, and it's a subtle difference, but you can see, like especially in the eyes, they're a little bit sharper, a little bit clearer. So that's it. And then if you wanted to do a blur, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this whole thing. So layer, flatten, and then again Command J, and I'm going to go to Filter, Blur Gallery, Iris Blur, and now this is kind of where that like wedding photographer effect comes in. What you're doing is creating a bokeh effect, which is where something in the center is in focus and then kind of everything else around it gets blurry. So, and you can change this, get bigger, however you want to do it. I'm going to just go a little bit more quickly. And then over here you can control your blur, so if you go all the way up you can see how extreme that is. Don't do that. You want it to be subtle. I would say, that's okay. Say okay, it's going to think. And then because you hit the Command J and you have this other layer here where the blur is sitting, you can look like before, after, and just look at the background here. Before, after. There you go. So that is usually what I do for basic editing. I know it seems like a lot, but it goes fast once you get the hang of it. So, and then I'm going to File, Save. There you go, on my desktop, Photoshop file, and that's it.